So I can maybe give another example of this, or try to unfold this in a few different ways. You can refer a little bit to an interesting book called Acoustic Communication by Barry Truax. Barry Truax is participating in the community of acoustic ecology since the 70s, which is very much focused on environmental sound. But Barry makes an interesting comment where he proposes that we understand that sound, in a sense, in any kind of space, is immediately inflected or contoured or shaped according to the acoustical properties of that space, which is, of course, something we understand from acoustics. But he was also thinking that, of course, in sound interacting with that space, in being somehow shaped by the acoustics of a place, it's also picking up particular kinds of information about that space and delivering it to us. So whether that's simply the material properties of that space, we understand that we are in a small room, or we are in a large room, we are in a reflective space, or not. So that sound is also picking up information as it somehow touches the space and delivers that to us. But with that in mind, I could propose that we tend to think that, for instance, in this room, that we are in a single room. We say we go to the lecture room, number 143, something, and that this has a single identity. But actually, if we follow Truax's proposal and the idea of this multiplied perspectives, I think we could also sort of begin to imagine that sound creates different kinds of spatial demarcations. So for instance, my voice as a sound, if we kind of imagine that, yeah, maybe as it moves towards you, that it picks up particular kinds of information in the room, and by the time it gets somehow 3 or 4 rows in, there's a kind of particular space there. And I would maybe suggest that as it passes further on, it may start to enter a different space, a different acoustical space. So suddenly we have a different kind of picture, really, of space, of this room. So far that I could say, actually, room 143 is actually 3 rooms in one. So of course, sound, there's a lot more there than what we see. And maybe just a sort of second point would be, if we return to the example of my voice, there's always this feeling that you imagine that my voice is mine. So I say something and you look at me. I am your vanishing point, the central perspective that your eyes are directed towards. And that you somehow imagine that my voice is here. So, of course, we immediately can turn that around and say, actually, my voice is already immediately inside all of your heads. Actually, so the perspective is actually a much different shape or a much different kind of configuration to say that actually my voice is already also yours. Something like that. So just to return to my main points, a second lesson would be that sound challenges my sense of what I am listening for. In other words, what I am expecting, what I am waiting for, is constantly supplemented by something else. So just to linger over this idea of the supplement for a moment, we can understand the supplement as something that adds on to something else. It is not a substitute for something, but an addition, a sort of appendix. But in adding on to an original object, or action, or phenomenon, the supplement also empties out the original as a full, stable presence. So the supplement brings into question the wholeness of the original by introducing a more than. In doing so, it also opens up the original to undo the idea of a stable, meaningful reference. The supplement, in other words, makes the original open for sampling, for appropriation, for comment. So to return to the club, the talking happening over there interfered with what I was expecting, with what I was waiting for, that is, the band. But in doing so, it also started to supplement the band, as the point of my attention was undone. It's like being in a cinema during an intensely serious moment in a film, and someone in the audience starts laughing. This laughter, this noise, completely disrupts the scene, but it also begins something else. It says every expectation, every hoping for, is also prone to surprise. This I find extremely vital, a kind of vital element to sound and listening, that the process of supplementing creates the possibility of another narrative. This might be thought of as an echo of what Paul Carter calls the erotic ambiguity of sound. For Carter, this ambiguity is precisely the exceeding of representation, a positive, productive ambiguity found within sound that generates what you might think of as an extra meaning, something that slips through or overflows from any instant of representation. Okay, finally, my last lesson might be that sound introduces the other onto the scene. In other words, sound brings the one that is over there to here, in front of me. This elaborates the idea of the supplement, the multiplying of perspective, to suggest that sound, as the over here of the here, delivers a confrontation with the unexpected. And if we have to give a name to this unexpected, to the supplement, I would propose we call it the stranger. The stranger, in a sense, gives a body to the over here, a shape to the supplement, that also suggests a social situation, a negotiation, a meeting. If sound multiplies perspectives as a spatial acoustic, if it supplements what I am expecting, it does so by explicitly introducing something or someone I do not yet know. It is to bring to my attention something I was not waiting for. In other words, it is to introduce a difference. I take this difference then as something which broadens my horizon. The multiplying of perspectives, the supplementing of every representation forces me to meet the one that is separate from me. But it does so by immediately collapsing distance. This difference that is over there forces its way inside. That is, inside myself. If we map this spatially, we have a radical acoustical picture that completely reconfigures our conventional understanding of what is inside and what is outside, or what is mine and what is yours. The difference that is over there is suddenly a part of me. It literally inhabits my body. So there's the multiplying of perspective, which is a broadening of space, a widening out. And then there's the difference of this other perspective, this other space that invades my body, that comes from outside and goes inside. So, to sum up a little, sound multiplies perspectives, it supplements what I am expecting, and in doing so, it others my horizon. I take all this actually as the very conditioning of listening in general. I would suggest that to listen is to always already overhear. It is to live within multiplied perspectives, to experience noise, and to deal with strangers. In this sense, I think the acoustic as a particular kind of paradigm completely resituates our traditional view of the private and the public as being somehow clearly distinct or separate. as a preliminary proposal, I'd say that the acoustic produces a form of what I'd like to call public intimacy. It is to be involved in another notion of community, a sharing that is both at the very same moment intensely proximate, intensely close, my own, as well as something beyond me and inclusive. So just to pause for a moment.